Our first speaker today is Haley Glover with the Lumina Foundation, who will discuss why education matters to our community.
By post-secondary credential, we mean, yes, bachelor's, master's degrees, we mean associate degrees, and we mean credentials like certificates, okay? Right now in this country, there are over 10 million certificate holders who are not being counted. We're going to talk more about that in a little bit, but I want to remind you that the spread of education that we're focusing on is broad. It's not the typical ivy-covered buildings that you might think of when you think of college. It is workforce training that results in a credential. It's associate degrees, it's bachelor's plus. So, there we go. Here's one of the reasons why our numbers have stagnated quite a bit over the last 30 or 40 years. It should really shock you. What this slide says, in 1970, 40% of young people from the highest income quartile, the top 25% of earners in this country, had earned a bachelor's degree, compared to just 70% of our poorest young Americans. By 2010, the latest data for which the year for which this data is available, 80% of young people from the highest income quartile had earned a bachelor's degree, compared to just 11% of our poorest students. Okay? Education and more is aligning itself around income. It's replicating privilege. So when we talk about education as a great opportunity, we need to be really thoughtful about saying that. Because oftentimes it is the students who start and complete, they are the wealthiest students. They're the students who are coming from generations of college attainment. It's not those young students who need to get out of poverty. It's not those first generation students that we look to and say, you can do anything you want. Anymore, we are reinforcing, okay? So what we need to do is really think about who are we enticing and encouraging and rewarding to go to college. This is why the initiative proposed by the 5 counties down here is so wonderful. You are taking a subset of the population, your adults who've invested their lives here. This is an economic development strategy, folks. This is a brain gain strategy, right? You're investing in the people who decided to make a life here and giving them the actual opportunity to reap all the benefits of higher education, which is where I'm going to go next. So, this is an international context. These are all of the developed nations in the world. You'll notice that China and India are not on this list. That's because they're not considered developed by the OECD. However, they're really big, which you know. So the scope and scale of their higher education efforts will soon be felt as they emerge. But as you'll note here, we are 4th. We're not number 1 anymore. We haven't been for quite some time. And as this next slide will show, our young people, our youngest generation, 25 to 34-year-olds, we're 14th in the world. Our young people are being outpaced by countries like Korea, like Japan, like Canada, like 11 other countries in addition to those. Okay? What's most notable about this slide, which I understand is very, very busy, is that we're not experiencing any growth between our generations. Right? So I'm a mom to a young little girl named Harper, and my greatest desire for her is to see her succeed in ways that I never dreamed possible. I've achieved a lot of success in my life. I want her to win the Nobel Prize by the time she's 25. That's my goal for my kid, right? I want her to do things I didn't think were possible. What we've currently decided as a nation is that 40% is good enough. And for the first time in our history, our youngest adults are not out-achieving our oldest adults, our 55 to 64-year-olds who are still in the workforce. And I want to say, what do we know about our 55 to 64-year-old age population? There's a lot of you. There's a lot of those. So as this group retires, there are not going to be enough skilled young people to take over the jobs that you leave. Also, there are not going to be enough young people to create the jobs, to fill the jobs that are getting created across the age spectrum. This is why this is not just a 2025 issue. This is a yesterday issue. We've got unemployment hovering around 8% in this country. There are millions of jobs going unfilled because we can't find find the people to do the jobs. There's not enough skill. So, macro, there's good reason for investing in this kind of thing. This chart knocks me out every time I look at it. I've seen it a million times. It still blows my mind. Okay. I want to come up here and I want to show you. So there are 3 lines on this slide. A blue line, a red line, and a green line. The blue line represents people with high school or less. Okay? The red line represents those with an associate degree, and the blue line represents those with a bachelor's degree or above. This charts job loss and gain during the recession and during the so-called recovery. Okay? You can see that during the recession, people with a high school diploma or less lost over 5 million jobs. Since the recovery happened, they lost another 250,000 jobs. They're not coming back. Jobs for low-skilled workers are not coming back. Yes, those with an associate degree lost some jobs during the recession, about 1.75 million, but since the recovery started, they gained them all back. And people with bachelor's degrees, I know you guys have heard the memes, the PhD cabbie or the master's degree bartender, right? Those are an anomaly. Since the recession ended, every job in this economy essentially has been gained by somebody with education. And during the recession, you never actually lost a job. In fact, jobs were gained during the recession by those with education. So, if you're looking for insurance against unemployment, against poverty, against job loss, education is your best insurance. And education is our nation's best insurance, truthfully. So this is where your counties stand. I put them all together, okay? There's a lot of things to sort of point out, but when we count your attainment rate, we count associate degrees, bachelor's degrees, and master's degrees. We don't count certificates because the census doesn't count certificates. However, right now in this economy, in the nation, there are over 10 million people with certificates that earn more than the average associate degree. And I took and I said, well, if the patterns apply nationally, apply to you guys in the same way, there are at least 10,000 people in your 5-county region who have a certificate, but that's not being counted right now. In the next couple of years, the census is going to start counting. We're going to get a whole lot better picture of what our actual attainment rate is. But for the time being, sorry I got a little wonky on you there for just a second. For the time being, let's focus here. As you can see, you're really outpaced by the nation in your bachelor's degree attainment and your graduate and professional degree attainment. This 5-county region actually out-attains the region in associate degrees, and that is no doubt due to the presence of Ivy Tech near you. You live in a region of the state that is starved for institutions of higher learning. There's IU Southeast is close south, but particularly the farther east you go, there's nothing close. So we have to find other options of how you get education. One thing I do want to point out, you have a much higher than average rate of people who stopped at high school, and you have a much higher than average rate of people who got to 9th through 12th grade but didn't get a diploma. But the thing I want to point out, the some college but no degree, within your 5-county region, like Judy said, 1 in 4 people started college but didn't finish. And all of the data that we're running on a national basis shows that about 1/3 of those people, right, over 30% of those people have more than 60 credits, meaning they've earned an associate degree. They just never got it, right? So that's one reason why this strategy, finding the people with some college but no degree, is such a great tactic. Because there are a whole lot of people out there right now who already learned, already gained enough credit to have a degree in their pocket. They just don't have it. So I want to show you that you're not alone, okay? This is where you stand relative to other counties in the state and relative to other states. Now, I spent a good stint of my professional career in Massachusetts, and you can't throw a stone in that state without getting to college. I'll just say it. Massachusetts is the highest attaining state in our nation. Indiana's not. All right, Indiana ranks about 40th. We vary somewhere between 39 and 44 every year when the census comes out. But one of the reasons why Indiana varies so much is because we've got such a wide spread among our counties. which you can't see because of the ceiling, like Hamilton County, one of the highest achieving counties in the Midwest. It doesn't achieve nearly like a Berkeley, California, or a Silicon Valley type place, but it's already met the goal and exceeded the goal, right? It's also one of the wealthiest places in the nation. And we have places like Washington, Scott, Pulaski, LaPorte County, who are not high attainers, all right? What we have to do is recognize the states that are high up on this list, the New Hampshires, the Connecticut's, the New Yorks, they don't have that widespread, right? They're all hovering right around the average or above, right? And so focusing where there's need is got to be the best strategy. This is where the implications to all of this come in, okay? This is labor force non-participation and unemployment. You all know the unemployment statistics out there right now because you can't open a newspaper and not hear about unemployment. So right now, like I said, we're hovering at around 8%, but the variation happens by educational attainment. You see, 20% of those with less than a high school diploma are unemployed. That means that they're actively seeking work, but unable to find it. Now, here's the underlying statistic that should freak you out a little bit. Labor force non-participation. That means their workforce age, they're human beings of a certain age, of a certain attainment rate, but they're not looking for work. That's almost half of your less than high school attainers who are not looking for work. I don't know what they're doing. I said the other day, maybe they're couch surfing. Maybe they're living in their mom and dad's basement. Or who knows? But that should shock you, right? Because what you want is for people to be looking for work. 12%, that's normal. That's normal. That's people taking maternity leaves. That's people taking time off to raise kids. That's people taking sabbaticals, starting businesses. 43%, too high. And this is where the rubber hits the road for individuals, right? You earn more the higher degree you have. Okay? So, if you get a bachelor's degree, you can expect in any given year to earn about $13,500 more than a high school graduate. If you have some college or associate degree, you can expect to earn about $5,500 more than a high school graduate. That's the difference between poverty and an earning wage. Speaking of poverty, this is just one more point on the scale, right? That makes it good proof to invest in education. If you have a degree, if you've got a credential, you're much less likely to live in poverty, particularly if you're a woman, okay? And I brought it up the other day. One of the reasons y'all have got such high free and reduced lunch rates, and those keep going up year after year, is because of the woman problem. If you have undereducated women, they are not able to find family-sustaining work. That is all.